Well, here we are again, folks. We're in Jude. We started out in Jude a little while ago in another excerpt we had, and we covered 2 verses. It seems funny, but I'm going to tell you what. 8 words in a verse, and those 8 words could take you a week to preach them if you went and did an exhaustive study on those words. And when you're studying the Bible, you need to do that. You need to do an exhaustive study. You need to exhaust it. You need to go to the nth of it. You need to go back to the first time it was mentioned. This is called something of first mention. It's the law, of first mention. At the first time it's mentioned, and then you follow it back up through. If you go back to the first time it's mentioned. Now, I'm not a computer smart man, so I don't know where it is and how to do it. But they tell me you can go on the computer and go back immediately, instantly, to every verse that comes up through and read it. And that would be one way to do it. I prefer digging it out. I prefer using this old Bible right here that I've been using a day or 2. It's marked up. I got my marks all in it, all over it. And as a matter of fact, I got several of these that are this way. And I use them all. I use every one of them at different times. And then I always have this big old thing right here. This is a Bible too, a Holy Bible. And I got it all marked up too. And I have it in front of me. And I run references one behind the other in them. And I turn the pages, and by turning the pages and reading what it says, and then another thing, respecting the one that wrote it. I'm respecting Jude today. Jude today is my brother in the Lord, and I asked God when I started to put this on his account, that I'm studying his book and I'm looking at it. And not only that, it needs to go back to the one that led you to the Lord. And this is an amazing thing, too, that Jude was a half-brother of Jesus, and here he is following Jesus. How many people in a family will follow somebody else in a family, especially if they're put up, we would say, perhaps, high and mighty above the natural man that Jude was, being the half-brother of Jesus. Now, the purpose of this epistle is 3 and 4. Let's read it. Beloved. Now that means he's talking to those who are saved. That word beloved. Study your words. A lot of people say, well, I can't use that King James Version. I don't know what them words mean. I can't understand them. Well, you understand what beloved is. That's what your wife is. Or that's what your children are. They're beloved. He said, when I gave all diligence. Now, there's another word. Diligence. Are you diligent in what you do? Are you giving diligence to things? He said, I gave all diligence to write unto you of the common salvation. Salvation was common. It was common that Jesus Christ came, died on the cross, took your sin upon him, rose again the 3rd day, went back to heaven, justified you just as if you never sinned. And that is what the common salvation is. It was needful for me to write unto you and exhort you that ye should earnestly contend for the faith which was once delivered unto the saints. Now he's saying it's needful again for me to write unto you again, because I hear that you're doing some things that you shouldn't be, that you've accepted some things into your, if you please, right here we'll say church house, the place where you go and worship. You've accepted some things that you don't need to. You've taken back in to your place of worship some works and trying to turn some salvation into works. You can't do that. He said it's only by Jesus Christ. The common salvation was only by Jesus Christ. Listen now to what he's saying. For there are certain men, he said in chapter 4, verse 4, that have crept in unawares. That's some that snuck in there. They come down to the front. They say, I want to join the church. And the preacher says to them, are you saved? And they say, yes, sir. Have you been scripturally baptized? And they say, yes, sir. And then we say, well, you can join this church then, because that's the criteria for joining. But they lied. How you know they lied? Their actions tell on them. Okay, listen to this. Certain men have crept in unawares, who were before of old ordained to this condemnation. Ungodly men, turning the grace of our God into lasciviousness, and denying the only Lord and our Lord Jesus Christ. Do you know there are men who are pedophiles who come to the church house and act like everybody else? And you gotta watch them, boy. You need to stand over with a baseball bat, unless they molest or touch one of those children in the church, which can happen. And that's what they come for. And then there are those that come for one reason only, and that's to steal away one of the godly women of the church and win her heart and take her away from the church, and she'll be there no more. And next time you see her 4 or 5 years later, she said, I married the devil. And she found out he was the devil. But now she's hooked to him. Hook, line, and sinker, and can't get away. There are those kind of men that have crept in unaware. Then there's those that come and they're not looking for a wife. They're seeing how many of these godly women they can carry off out of the church. And they're around. Let me tell you what, they're around. And then there are those that come in who have a heresy, or they have a different thought about the word, and they come in and they'll be there a while, and they're bad seed, they're tares, and they're sowed into the church, and they look like Christians, they look like believers, when actually they're dead man's bones inside, and they're not Christians. And Jude's saying, watch for these guys. They're there. They're not sanctified. They're not preserved by God. They're not even in the Lord. Watch out for them. And they contend against everything in the church, by the way. Everything that goes on. I can remember this one guy used to be in, and he used to say, I want you to know, just for the record, I'm against it. So if something happened, he would be right. Just for the record, he'd say, I don't care what it was. We say we're going to get a new piano, and he'd say, just for the record, I want you to know I'm against it. And always was just for the record. Everything had to be wrote down to him. And let's go on. Examples of judgment. He said, I will therefore put you in remembrance, though you once knew this, how that the Lord, having saved the people out of the land of Egypt, afterward destroyed them that believed not. Now he brought a group of people out of the wilderness, God did, and that same group of people, all of them weren't his. All of them weren't following him. All of them had not surrendered to God. Some had, some hadn't. By the way, some of those people had giantess blood in them, and they were not God's in the first place. They were not the children that God had chosen. Listen, all that giantess blood in those people was tainted blood, and God could not recognize them. And they, by the way, were like Judas was. They were sons of perdition. They were sons of the devil. They were not going to be saved anyway.